Hi guys, so now we're going to be talking about a progression model for deadlifts. So with our active straight leg raise, this is the screen for doing a deadlift. So we need to make sure that we have an adequate progression scheme that's going to fit into whatever goal a client may have, and also what movement progression they're at right now. So if you've got someone with active straight leg raise of 0, you know that deadlifts are probably not going to be the best option for them. You don't have to worry about your progression. I wouldn't even worry with hip hinging programs. I would more worry about figuring out what's going on there. So if they can't lift their leg up, that's like quite a big problem to have. Now, if they got a score of 1, basically they don't have the mobility to get into a proper deadlift technique. Now, some people will recommend practicing hip hinge variations as a way to do this while holding a stick on the back. I feel like sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Some clients, if they don't have the ability, what happens is they'll just round their back and then they'll feel like an idiot with a stick on the back. So it can be a good strategy in some cases. I think in most cases you're better off sticking with your correctives and then maybe adding some of that at the end just to see where it is as a measure of progress. Now, for your active leg raise score of 2, you want to kind of look at, does the client have a training background or not? So if someone's got an active straight leg raise score of 2 and they've done some serious deadlifting in the past and they can deadlift okay, it's no problem starting off with a barbell deadlifting. What a lot of people do when they get into correctives is they start taking people back in where they were in their training and not progressing them effectively. So what we want to do is we don't want to fall victim to that trap. We want to get them deadlifting as soon as possible, but we want to make sure that they're doing the deadlift that's best suited towards their goals. And this is where in the document, I put a lot of different progressions there, but I've also put in what they're good for. So we have a look here. The Romanian deadlift is probably the best exercise for hypertrophy of the hamstrings. It will also help improve your range of motion. So the thing with a Romanian deadlift compared to a full range of motion deadlift is the load's generally going to be reduced. You are probably going to be doing higher reps. I generally find that it is less fatiguing systemically than a full deadlift for most clients. And the risk to benefit ratio is better in favor of a Romanian deadlift versus a barbell deadlift. It's that bottom part of the lift that most people find the most challenging. So if we focus on making sure that Romanians are a bigger part of our programming, for most clients, we're probably going to be better off. Now, if we do rack pulls, people have talked about how they're good exercise for hypertrophy. They're really not. The only thing they're probably good for hypertrophy is the lower back, because you can use a little bit more load through there. But you would use them as an assistance exercise, mainly for strength training. So if someone's a power lifter, or they can be quite useful for the lockout position, or they're weak from a certain point on the knee, although you could also use floating and pause deadlifts for that. Rack pulls can also be good for sports specific, where working with athlete where you're trying to limit the range of motion. Now, trap bar deadlift, what happens there is the load is distributed differently compared to a full deadlift. So instead of the weight being ahead of you, it's going to be right by your side, which is good. I don't think it's as good for hypertrophy for the posterior chain as a Romanian deadlift. But the cool thing about trap bar deadlifts is you can elevate the heels and you can do it more like a squat to actually train the quads. So trap bar deadlift has more versatility. So if you have a client who is a little bit pain sensitized and feel things a little bit, trap bar deadlifts can be a better option for them. It's also quite good for athletic performance because there's less systemic, or I guess axial load on the body, less load going through the spine, so it means the recoverability demands of a trap bar deadlift are not as high. Now, kettlebell deadlifts are a good exercise for beginners to start with. Reason being is the load can be placed directly under the body, under the center of gravity, but the loading potential is limited. I would generally get people quite strong at kettlebell deadlifts before going out to a bar. If you can work up to a 32 kilo kettlebell, you can automatically go to a barbell with the 5 kilo plates on it, if they're bumper plates, and the person will find they'll be able to get into position extremely easily, and they'll find the load a lot lighter due to the distribution of it. So you should be able to get them a PB, which should hopefully motivate them to keep going. Now, when you've got a person who's a 3, you can look at lots of different options. So some of the barbell deadlift, not as good as hypertrophy, but it's not going to contribute to hypertrophy. I think the fitness industry has overreacted, saying squats and deadlifts aren't good for hypertrophy because they cause so much systemic fatigue. I think people need to tolerate a little bit more fatigue. It's better than saying harden up. until you're lifting really huge weights, like really big weights, they're not going to cause that much fatigue that it's going to stop you from training everything overall. Very overrated. People think about barbell deadlifts actually being bad for fatigue. I also generally find for programming deadlifts, it's better for lower reps, just generally because of the weight generated and the form going downhill. And I like doing dead stop deadlifts as a general rule of thumb compared to touch and go. I would use touch and go more in a powerlifting specific circumstance, which is where the bar kind of bounces off the ground. It does have a little bit more jarring effect to it, which can be a bit more load throughout the lumbar spine to tolerate. But a barbell deadlift from the floor reset every time will also develop much better starting strength. Snatch grip deadlift increases the range of motion, takes their arms out wider, so you have to go a little bit further. A lot of people have said it's good lat hypertrophy exercise. It's not really, it just requires an isometric contraction of a lat, so not really going to do it that well. But good lift if someone wants to get into Olympic lifting, good for strength as well, if you want to take their body through a larger range of motion and reduce load. Podium deadlift, which is elevating the feet onto a step, can be a good choice too. It requires more mobility. Podium grip snatch grip deadlift is a nightmare. I would generally not do any more than 6 because the range of motion is so big. And you want to take people into power. Kettlebell swings are actually like a variation of a deadlift that you can do quite effectively. So rather than going into power cleans and snatches and all that kind of stuff, because with general population clients, doing Olympic lifting is very tricky. Most gyms don't have the facilities to do it well, and the learning curve is quite long. It takes a long time to be competent in it. You can start generating power with kettlebell work really quickly. Now, how much power you decide to put in someone's program is entirely up to you. Kettlebells can also be used in interval training type circuits, and in the conditioning and cardio modules, we'll be talking about ways how to do it. But sometimes if someone has limited equipment, a kettlebell can be a very useful tool that you can use for many different purposes, and quite versatile. You can get a good workout in a very small space. So guys, they're the deadlift progressions. We're going to have videos in the technique stuff on all of those, going in those in detail. Any questions, hit me up, and I'll see you soon at the next module.